Greetings to distinguished participants today. I am pleased and very honored to be here at the 5th ASEAN Bloomberg Summit, which is extremely important for Thailand and for our region. And I'd like to present my views on the heading of the future of Thailand and ASEAN, which is organized by a Bloomberg news agency. It is timely and extremely important for ASEAN and Thailand, as Thailand has assumed the ASEAN chairmanship in 2019 and will host the 34th ASEAN Summit at the end of this week. And all of this will be a means of advancing our stance in the G20 meeting. I'll be a participant in the G20 in my capacity as the ASEAN chair. As for Thailand's vision, since Thailand has potential and stands ready to drive forward development in many areas together with the region. It's not just restricted to Thailand, but to our entire region. There is now political stability in the country. We have overcome a situation of unrest through conciliation and resolved many chronic problems which have impeded economic and social development, such as the problem of ICAO civil aviation, IUU fishing, combating human trafficking under the TIP report, as well as facilitating the business sector. And there are also many other issues that we've been able to successfully resolve and will continue with this work in a continuous way. What is very important for the Thai people is that we've overcome an important period, which is the organization of general elections as per the democratic process and Thailand's roadmap in 2019, which has set the direction for our future. I'm most thankful for the trust that Thai citizens have put in me in assuming the position of Prime Minister again, and I will carry out my duties to the best of my abilities to continue implementing the country's development policies as well as to solve the problems that we've been solving in the past, so that this becomes a policy for our country in the long term and the short term. In 2018, in the past, the economic indicators for Thailand demonstrate that the economy has improved significantly with a growth rate of 4.1%, which is the highest in 6 years. The value of exports amounted to $253 billion, the highest in history. We also have to look at the top-tier economy, middle-tier economy, and bottom-tier economy. And we have to look at the problems at all tiers of the economy. The most important thing is that we're an agricultural country, therefore we have to support the bottom tier of our economy as well. Overall investment increased by 3.8%, which is the highest rate in the past 6 years. With regard to tourism, there's been steady growth, with around 38 million foreign tourists visiting Thailand in 2018. We have a population of around 68 million people, so the proportion of tourists to the population is around half. The increase is 2.9 million from the previous year. Therefore, this is an area of capacity for us, and this year it is estimated that we'll welcome 40 million foreign tourists. We don't need to be concerned about Thai people, or we'll all have space to live in because they aren't all coming at once, 40 million of them, and they'll all go back home, and there are different seasons of tourism in our country. We've developed tourism in many areas, and it's become an important income for our country, for top-tier cities, for second-tier cities, and for all 55 provinces where we've reformed the tourism sector. And we've also been commended for taking care of the safety of tourists in a more effective way. So I'd like to urge businesses to help the government also take care of the welfare and the safety of the tourists so that we don't only have to rely on law enforcement. Our international situation is also strong, especially our current account surplus, as well as our high rate of international reserves, which now ranks 12th in the world. At the same time, the Thai government gives importance to facilitating and streamlining the process for approving investment in order to elevate Thailand's overall competitiveness. We are therefore very pleased that the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business 2018 report ranked Thailand 27th out of 190 countries, which is 19 places higher than the previous year and means that we're ranked third in ASEAN. We're highly proud of this, and as proof of the success of our work, We accord importance to this and we pay attention to this. We pay attention to international indexes in order to create confidence for investors both within the country and outside of the country, in order to ensure that the Thai economy can move forward sustainably at a time when technological advancements are affecting business and national growth, especially disruptive technology. We therefore have to resolve these problems as well. We have to develop infrastructure in our country. There's been a lot of investment in our infrastructure in the form of PPP, public-private partnership, in order to alleviate the burden on the state. And we also have to be concerned about international debt. So we have to assist each other both internally and externally in such areas. In terms of developing the infrastructure, it has to be conducive with existing industries and innovative industries. There are 12 industries that have to be enhanced. The traditional industries have to be more up-to-date. There has to be more innovative and use more up-to-date technology. And we also have to retrain the skills of our labor force to ensure that there's no loss of employment due to mechanization. Since we're now entering the age of 4.0, where it's not only mechanization, but there is robotics as well. So these two things have to be implemented side by side. We have 5 traditional industries, which we're already strong in, and there are 6 new industries. So these have to be emphasized at the same time, including the development of the Eastern Economic Corridor of Innovation and Eastern Economic Corridor of Development. We have to create infrastructure to accommodate new industries in line with our goal to become the economic corridor of Asia. In the first phase, we have accelerated the development of the EEC to become a hub that connects the manufacturing, trade, and investment in the region. Therefore, we also have to consider other economic corridors. The East-West, the North-South corridor is not just building a single economic corridor, but we have to think about connectivity to other corridors in the country and in the region. We have a policy of Thailand +1, whereby we encourage people to invest in neighboring countries, in ACMEX countries, CLMVT countries, and in the ASEAN community at large, which will allow us to upgrade the productivity of the country, including Thai operators, so that they can have better access to the global value and supply chain. And we're adopting this develop model for other areas in the country as well. In our country, there are 70 provinces. So I'd like to ask all of you to give interest to all provinces, including the 20 prime provinces where we'll have industries that are environmentally friendly and will be priority industries for the country. Right now, we're emphasizing regions and groupings of provinces and downwards towards the regional level, and we have to see which regions have capacity for which industries. I'd also like to urge you to give particular interest to the agricultural sector so that we can have, so that the local people can have a higher income, especially in the agricultural sector, so that there is continuity in our development policy. We have adopted the 20-year national strategy. I'd like to emphasize that it's only a framework. It's a wide-ranging framework. And there are 6 strategies in order to lead the country towards stability, towards better welfare, towards a more just society, and towards greater sustainability for the environment, for natural resources, which is the long-term goal. And right now, we have to expedite development under this framework. There also has to be the transfer of technology and innovation in the various important sectors of the economy in order to add value to products in the country as well as to process products for export. And the relevant agencies have been involved in order to drive forward these measures so that there are concrete results. There are master plans, and there are also plans of actions for each local area in order to support the policy that has been set so that it is synchronized and in a single direction. This is the development plan of our country. It has to be people-centered, and we have to emphasize the potential and the capacity of the local area. These are as per international principles and international standards. I'm not sure whether the interpreter is able to keep up. I feel slightly concerned about the interpreter because I've added things to my script. As for the sufficiency economy philosophy, I'd like to inform you all that this is the true guiding principle instituted by His Majesty the late King Bhumibol Adulyadej, which he gave to us tens of years ago. It has to be admitted that even though Thailand, the statistics for people under the poverty in Thailand has reduced from 57.07% to 7.87% in 2017. It's true that the figure has gone down because we're looking at people's income and the world has changed a lot. However, the value of money has purchasing power has gone up due to technology, and this hasn't been in sync with income. Therefore, we have to see how we can apply the sufficiency economy philosophy. We have to consider how much money we have and how much we can spend. This has to be solved in a strategic manner, also in line with our business policies and business strategies. Thailand is also confronting the problem of social disparity. It's not occurring only in Thailand. It occurs in many countries. We all have to assist the public to ensure that they have better quality of life and better well-being. So, the middle tier of the economy and the top tier of the economy have to be developed alongside the bottom tier. Everyone should have a role in taking care of the welfare of the country. The government is able to do only one thing, which is the use of the government budget, which is received from taxation. Another issue that I'd like to discuss is the deteriorating environment and natural resources, as with many countries. If you look back in history, we didn't accord that much importance to our natural resources. People were using natural resources in a wasteful way, and there wasn't a careful management of natural resources. But now we have more effective management. However, effective management right now can be too late because we've already degraded our natural environment. The natural environment that has been degraded has to be revived and replaced, whether this is water sources, mountains, trees, forests. All of these things have to be advanced because a problem that we have in common is a problem of climate change, CO2 emissions and greenhouse gases and marine debris. These are all environmental problems that have to be discussed closely between all partners, and there has to be the contribution of the business sector for the betterment of the environment. Another issue that I've just recorded is human rights in doing business, which is taking care of human rights in business and protecting human rights in business. So in all contracts, we take into account human rights, especially in the application process and in the approval process. And of course, there'll be effects on human lives and on agricultural areas when you do business, but you have to minimize these effects. And you have to make sure that gains don't lead to loss in another area, for instance, air pollution or the pollution of the environment. Air pollution isn't only restricted to our country, but it flows to other countries as well. For instance, the air pollution in Thailand, the problem originates in various countries, so it's a joint responsibility and a joint effort. We're also having to confront the problem of socio-economic disparity, and we have to find a way of reducing socio-economic disparity as soon as possible, as well as improving the degrading environment so that our country is sustainable in a comprehensive way and sustainable for all sectors of society. We have to set a target so that there are benefits for all segments of society, not just benefits for the business sector. The business sector might have increased profits. However, this might result in risk or disadvantages to the population at large. The economic crisis in 1997 was a transformational point which allowed us to realize that relying on the global economy without internal strength might lead to high risks for our country. Therefore, it allowed us to truly understand the sufficiency economy philosophy under reasonableness, moderation, and immunity. I'd like to promote Thailand to have strength from within, in line, and to have a strong a strong economic base which can be distributed to the grassroots economy as well. We use the term grassroots nowadays, which is, I think, a term that gives more honor to that segment of society. It's the pillar of our economy. If the pillar of the economy is not strong, then the entire economy can topple. Therefore, the a strong pillar is important for the entire economy. And all countries in ASEAN have to be a strong point in reducing the socio-economic gap to encourage growth for the grassroots, for SMEs and for micro SMEs as well. And there are considerable problems nowadays as a result of disruptive technology in the area of retail and in the area of since there's been a change in the behavior of people. People want convenience, people want swiftness. For instance, if you want to buy food, then you can just pick up your phone and type it in. Nowadays, there are people delivering food, which is a new part of the economy and which has enabled them to gain a decent income, delivering food to people's homes. So instead of people purchasing food in markets, people now purchase food online. So we have to find solutions in order to meet the demands of the new behavior of the public resulting from online trade and digital trade to make sure that the economy can still be stable in spite of such behaviors. So if we consider all sectors at the same time and how they can access the global supply chain and value chain, we can see that sufficiency economy philosophy can be a tool in this. It can be a tool in strengthening all aspects of society to make sure that growth is not untenable. We have to have a wide economic base, and this economic base in our country has been strong for a long while. So when we're restructuring the economy of the country, we have to consider that our economic base is very wide, and sometimes economic statistics do not accurately reflect this. How is it that we can stimulate new sectors of the economy in order to stimulate these statistics and in order to so that income will trickle down to the lower tiers of the economy? So we have to enhance industry, the economy, agriculture, and the development of human resources all at the same time. We have to receive cooperation from the private sector in this, in training the capacity of people, in employing people who are knowledgeable and skilled. And this is done at the bilateral level with other countries as well. This is something that we accord a lot of importance to. This is in relation to the employment of both Thai people and the foreign labor force. I've instructed the BOI to amend its plans to be in line with the modern economy and to encourage more incentives, both non-tax incentives and tax incentives. And in terms of our vision for ASEAN, we've had to confront many challenges. However, we have to overcome these challenges. We can't just surrender. But we're fighting not through might, but we're fighting through mindfulness and through intelligence, since there is greater uncertainty in the global economic situation, and there's also greater competition, which has an effect on global finances and the global economy. This includes the trade conflict, which might undermine the trade atmosphere in the world and might lead to a full-blown trade war. We have to alleviate these tensions. We have to create greater balance. Therefore, and another matter that we have to take into account is the effects of the fourth industrial revolution. Now we're moving, in fact, towards the fifth industrial revolution. Our 4.0 policy is in line with the fourth industrial revolution, but now there's a new revolution, which is the fifth, with new technology and new innovation. So right now we're moving from the third industrial revolution to the fourth industrial revolution in the country first. Or industries that are still at 2.0 have to move to 3.0. There's always been innovation. There's been innovation at 1.0, there's been innovation at 2.0 and 3.0. If we look at the local wisdom of local people in the country, there have been innovations in terms of tools and basic technology. There have also been innovation for agriculture and for harvest in order to reduce the costs, in order to reduce the requirement for labor. But large-scale businesses are now using mechanical tools that are more up-to-date, and this might lead to the loss of employment. So we also have to find a solution to minimize the loss of employment. The move from 4.0 to 5.0 means a reduction in the labor force. There will be a huge loss of labor force in the future also as a result of foreign labor going back to their own countries when their own countries become more developed. And so there'll be a labor gap in our country. So this is another matter that we also have to prepare ourselves for. Under these challenges, I feel that Thailand and ASEAN have high capacity to handle these challenges, to turn our region into an arena for trade and investment to meet the demands of international investors, and we can maintain ASEAN centrality in the regional architecture amidst the increased role in our region of major economies in the world. In the world, there are both very developed countries, developing countries, and all these countries have to synchronize their efforts and they have to move forward together. So we also have to take into careful consideration the entry of new players into our region to make sure that there is balance in their roles and that to make sure that there is trust and confidence in their participation. We're aware that ASEAN is
ASEAN is strategically located and has the potential to become the fourth largest economic bloc in the world by 2030, or even faster if we help each other. This will help to increase ASEAN's regional leverage and on the international stage as well. In 2017, ASEAN's combined GDP was valued at $2.8 trillion US. The average economic growth rate in ASEAN was 5.3. Foreign investment was equal to 137 billion US dollars, which is an increase of 11.6%. 125 million tourists visited the region, and Thailand is one of the top destinations, receiving approximately 40 million visitors. But we cannot leave our friends behind in tourism as well. That's why I have been advocating the one tourism, two destinations in order to help create jobs and employment, make tourism more diverse, cater to different needs. For example, rainy season tourism. Some people enjoy visiting waterfalls. We have diverse strengths in the tourism sector, and we need to work together to streamline procedures and facilitate visits from abroad. ASEAN has also developed its own mechanisms for economic cooperation, such as the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, and Thailand, as chair, is trying to expedite conclusion of the RCEP negotiations within this year. And this is an intention that all leaders have affirmed. RCEP, of course, is an agreement between the 10 ASEAN member states and 6 dialogue partners. If once concluded, the RCEP will be the largest economic grouping in terms of value in the world, with a combined GDP equal to 1/3 of global GDP, and will also help to generate further economic growth. In addition, many members of RCEP are also part of the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, or CPTPP, which will help to enhance economic cooperation and develop the value chain. The CPTPP will also have to take into account the well-being of the agricultural sector, of farmers, and it is also opening up opportunities for other countries, such as Thailand, to consider joining in, which would further expand the framework of cooperation. So we should all pitch in and help move our economies forward together. So from all of these developments, you can see that ASEAN has strong fundamentals. Despite the fact that there have been elections in many ASEAN member states this year, which may have led to changes in administration, but our commitment to moving ASEAN remains unchanged. We carry forward efforts with the people at the heart. and ASEAN is in our common national interest. And as chair of ASEAN this year, we have set the theme of advancing partnership for sustainability to enhance sustainability in all dimensions through cooperation and close partnership with our friends and the international community. And one of the priorities of our chairmanship is for ASEAN to have a vision that is more future-oriented, to orient itself towards the future and not be stuck in the past. But an important factor in our approach to solving problems is, of course, to look into the past in order to understand the present and solve problems into the future. So, however the future develops, we have to adapt. Problem solving is never easy. Talk is easy, but we must also be responsible for what we say. We must take a good look at laws and regulations, revising, adapting them to keep up with the times. Thailand itself has passed a big number, 300, 400 laws, pieces of legislation in order to help move the country forward, in order to create equitable economic opportunities for all peoples. For example, to increase access to infrastructure, to increase transparency, to increase efficiencies. But the most important thing that we keep in mind always is that we care for those with lower incomes. We care for their needs. Therefore, we must work together to create a seamless ASEAN, a connected ASEAN, connected not only in terms of physical hard infrastructure, but also in terms of harmonizing rules and regulations. And the people will be at the center of our efforts. We will create a community that is equitable, respects diversity and difference, and leaves no one behind. How can we bring them on the on the journey to economic progress? We must not leave anyone behind. So Thailand this year will be pursuing 3 main strategies in 2019. One is being future-oriented, which means being prepared for the 4th Industrial Revolution. 2 is promoting connectivity in trade, investment, tourism, and electronic customs systems through a single ASEAN window linking all 10 ASEAN member states. And 3 is promoting the sustainability of things, or sustainability in all dimensions, in order to strengthen the economy from the grassroots level up, so as to raise the people's well-being. We should also enhance linkages between MSMEs, link settlement of cross-border transactions, and real-time retail payment systems in local currencies. ASEAN has also recently adopted a roadmap for ASEAN sustainable capital markets. In terms of digital development, Thailand recently adopted a Cybersecurity Act, which came into force in May 2019. We also have agencies and institutes that oversee digital advances in all dimensions. This is an issue that all ASEAN member states attach importance to. We are in the process of developing infrastructure and platforms, whether 5G, big data, or telehealth, to bring healthcare services to local communities. This is also to increase the capacity of hospitals to address the needs of their patients in a timely manner. So we must focus on efforts to improve primary healthcare, to improve community and village healthcare, reduce the costs and the distance that patients have to absorb and take in order to receive healthcare. So this is what we call telehealth. And in developing this program, we consulted with doctors and medical professionals across the country in order to prepare the country for the new era of digital trade and production. We are also developing a digital and green ASEAN. ASEAN itself has launched the ASEAN Catalytic Green Finance Facility under the ASEAN Infrastructure Fund to mobilize capital for the development of environmentally friendly infrastructure in ASEAN. We have a new ASEAN Digital Master Plan 2025 to cope with digital challenges. We are working on human resource and skills development and upgrading, laws governing digital infrastructure, smart cities, and the promotion of sustainable fisheries, all to promote inclusive and sustainable development. And as I said, following the ASEAN Summit this weekend, Thailand will be participating in the G20 Summit in Osaka. We will reaffirm our support for economic and social growth that is free, open, inclusive, sustainable, and leaves no one behind, and a seamless community in line with the chairmanship theme of advancing partnership for sustainability. Thailand is ready. We have political stability, policy continuity, and our new government is ready to carry forward the policies on the basis of the foundations already laid. And as part of the new government, I reaffirm that we will have policy continuity. Today we have representatives from the banks and funds. Yesterday, I met with the president of the AIIB and discussed how we can provide funds for the development, the continued development in different areas of the region. So we, governments, must work together with the private sector in order to move forward all of our goals, whether it be primary infrastructure linking our peoples. And lastly, I'm afraid that a lot of you may be quite sleepy. I didn't want to say too much, but I haven't said much for many days. So please do allow me this time. I must perhaps behave as Prime Minister in my second term. I can reassure the private sector that Thailand and ASEAN are ready. I speak on behalf of the ASEAN chairmanship. Whether it be the Thailand +1 project or the Myanmar +1, we must all open up highways and opportunities to link one another upstream, midstream, downstream. We must all help each other. And lastly, you can expand your business ventures with confidence in a Thailand and ASEAN that are ready. Today, we have received feedback that the government has done quite good work, but some processes still take time. So we can discuss how to improve these aspects going forward. The government is represented here by a number of people as well, so you can raise these issues with them also. We will go forward on the principle of the 3 M's: mutual trust, mutual respect, and mutual benefit. I wish the meeting today great success. I hope that you will achieve the objectives that you set out for our ASEAN, for our international community. Thank you